meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.
Everybody out there's having themselves a great day. We are rocking and rolling right now, and we are doing the Law of One series and having some issues today, but nonetheless, we are going to get through this. So we're doing episodes 67 and 68 today, and we've got for 67, we're going to kick it off too because it's kind of a longer one. We've got the whole concept of service to the entity. I think this is going to be a little weird for some people. This entity, the way they're coming at this from, right, wrong, and different, is trying to please or trying to even figure out a way to give love to something that doesn't want love. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if you've ever tried to chase after someone that's not interested in you, but it doesn't go well. And so there's a bit of it. It actually becomes almost comical to a degree because these guys are trying so hard to be, positive with the light and all that good stuff. But at the same time, service to self, especially higher density, they don't care. And it would disempower them if they actually went down your path of letting you help. Like, help is not what they want. So there's a fun little thing that goes into all that. They talk about magic, magical means, if you will. And I think it's an interesting concept. I don't want to spend a lot of time with magic in general. If you can get into it, if you want to get into it, it's totally your call. I know a little bit about it. Definitely known some people. I don't dabble. Really, there's some very little stuff I've done, but I've never done ritualistic magic by any stretch of the imagination. So by no means an expert, that's for sure. Service to self and service to others. The way that we would kind of come at things is really discussed in this one. The way we tackle fighting each other, the way we try to influence the other. And it's ultimately, it comes down to temptation. A lot of people remember the biblical story about Jesus going into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, and he was tempted by the devil, I think 3 times, if I remember correctly. It's that temptation concept. That's all they can really do. Nobody ever forced Jesus's face into the sand or something crazy like that, right? Like he was tempted. He was tricked almost, but tempted. And so it's a powerful kind of concept and important to understand all that. That said, this is service to, Law of One, session 67. And we're going to kick this one off. I hope you guys enjoy this. Check it out. It's on the Fringe. Law of One, session 67, recorded August 15th, 1981. Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. I communicate now. Questioner, could you first give us the instrument's condition, please? Ra, I am Ra. The vital energies are more closely aligned with the amount of distortion normal to this entity than previous askings showed. The physical complex energy levels are somewhat less strong than at the previous asking. The psychic attack component is exceptionally strong at this particular nexus. Questioner, can you describe what you call the psychic attack component and tell me why it is so strong at this particular time? Ra, I am Ra. We shall elect not to retrace previous given information, but rather elect to note that the psychic attack upon this instrument is at a constant level as long as it continues in this particular service. Variations towards the distortion of intensity of attack occur to the opportunities presented by the entity in any weakness. At this particular nexus, the entity has been dealing with the distortions which you call pain for some time, as you call this measurement. And this has a cumulatively weakening effect upon the physical energy levels. This creates a particularly favorable target of opportunity, and the entity of which we have previously spoken has taken this opportunity to attempt to be of service in its own way. It is fortunate for the ongoing vitality of this contact that the instrument is a strong-willed entity with little tendency towards the distortion called among your peoples hysteria, since the dizzying effects of this attack have been constant and at times disruptive for several of your diurnal periods. However, this particular entity is adapting well to the situation without undue distortions towards fear. Thus, the psychic attack is not successful, but does have some draining influence upon the instrument. Questioner, I will ask if I am correct in this analysis. We would consider that the entity making this so-called attack is offering its service with respect to its distortion in our polarized condition now so that we may more fully appreciate its polarity. And we are appreciative and thank this entity for its attempt to serve our one Creator in bringing us knowledge in, shall I say, a more complete sense. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. There is no correctness or incorrectness to your statement. It is an expression of a positively polarized and balanced view of negatively polarized actions, which has the effect of debilitating the strength of the negatively polarized actions. Questioner, we would welcome the services of the entity who uses, and I will use this misnomer, you might say, of attack, since I do not consider this an attack, but an offering of service, and we will welcome this offering of service. But we would be able, I believe, to make more full use of the service if it were not physically disabling the instrument in a minor way. For with a greater physical ability, she would be able to more appreciate the service. We would greatly appreciate it if the service was carried on in some manner which we could welcome an even greater love than at present. This, I assume, would be some service that would not include the dizzying effect. I am trying to understand the mechanism of this service by the entity that seems to be constantly with us, and I am trying to understand the origin of this entity and the mechanism of greeting us. I will make a statement that is probably not only incorrect, but is a function of my extreme limitation in understanding the other densities and how they work. I am guessing that this particular entity is a member of the Orion Confederation and is possibly, or possibly not, incarnate in a body of the appropriate density, which I assume is the fifth, and by mental discipline, he has been able to project a portion, if not all, of his consciousness to our coordinates, you might say, here, and it is possibly one of the 7 bodies that makes up his mind-body-spirit complexes. Is any of this correct, and can you tell me what is correct and incorrect about that statement? Ra, I am Ra. The statement is substantially correct. Questioner, would you rather not give me information as to the specifics of my statement? Ra, I am Ra. We did not perceive a query in further detail. Please re-question. Questioner, which body, with respect to the colors, does the entity use to travel to us? Ra, I am Ra. This query is not particularly simple to answer due to the transdimensional nature, not only of space-time to time-space, but from density to density. The time-space light, or fifth density body, is used while the space-time fifth density body remains in fifth density. The assumption that the consciousness is projected thereby is correct. The assumption that this conscious vehicle attached to the space-time fifth density physical complex is that vehicle which works in this particular service is correct. Questioner: I undoubtedly will ask several very uninformed and poor questions. However, I was trying to understand certain concepts having to do with the illusion, I shall say, of the polarization that seems to exist at certain density levels in the creation, and how can the mechanism of interaction of consciousness. It is a very difficult subject for me, and therefore I ask your forgiveness for my poor questions. But it seems to me that the fifth density entity is attracted in some way to our group by the polarization of this group, which acts somehow as a beacon to the entity. Am I correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is, in substance, correct, but the efforts of this entity are put forward only reluctantly. The usual attempts upon positively oriented entities, or groups of entities, are made, as we have said, by minions of the fifth density Orion leaders. These are fourth density. The normal gambit of such fourth density attack is the tempting of the entity or group of entities away from total polarization towards service to others, toward the aggrandizement of self or of social organizations which the self identifies. In the case of this particular group, each was given a full range of temptations to cease being of service to each other and to the one infinite Creator. Each entity declined these choices and instead continued with no significant deviations from the desire for a purely other self-service orientation. At this point, one of the fifth density entities overseeing such detuning processes determined that it would be necessary to terminate the group by what you might call magical means, as you understand ritual magic. We have previously discussed the potential for the removal of one of this group by such attack, and have noted that by far the most vulnerable is the instrument due to its pre-incarnative physical complex distortions. Questioner: in order for this group to be fully in service to the Creator, since we recognize this fifth density entity as the Creator, we must also attempt to serve, in any way we can, this entity. Is it possible for you to communicate to us the desires of this entity, if there are any, in addition to simply ceasing the reception and dissemination of that which you provide for us? Ra: I am Ra. This entity has two desires. The first and foremost is to, shall we say, misplace one or more of this group in a negative orientation so that it may choose to be of service along the path of service to self. The objective which must precede this is the termination of the physical complex viability of one of this group, while the mind-body-spirit complex is within a controllable configuration. May we say that although we of Ra have limited understanding, it is our belief that sending this entity love and light, which each of the group is doing, is the most helpful catalyst which the group may offer to this entity. Questioner: we find continue if you wish to continue with it. Ra: I am Ra. We were about to note that this entity has been as neutralized as possible in our estimation by this love offering, and thus its continued presence is perhaps the undesirable limit for each polarity of the various views of service which each may render to the other. Questioner: we have a paradoxical situation in that, in order to fully serve the Creator at this level in the polarized section, you might say, of creation, we have requests from those whom we serve in this density for Ra's information. In fact, I just had one by telephone a short while ago. However, we have requests from, in this particular case, another density not to disseminate this information. We have the Creator, in fact, requesting two seemingly opposite activities of this group. It would be very helpful if we could reach a condition of full, total, complete service in such a way that we were, by every thought and activity, serving the Creator to the very best of our ability. Is it possible for you to solve, or possible for the fifth density entity who offers its service to solve, the paradox that I have observed? Ra: I am Ra. It is quite possible. Questioner: then how could we solve this paradox? Ra: I am Ra. Consider, if you will, that you have no ability not to serve the Creator, since all is the Creator. In your individual growth patterns appear the basic third density choice. Further, there are overlaid memories of the positive polarization of your home density. Thus, your particular orientation is strongly polarized towards service to others and has attained wisdom as well as compassion. You do not have merely two opposite requests for service. You will find an infinite array of contradictory requests for information or lack of information from this source if you listen carefully to those whose voices you may hear. This is all one voice to which you resonate upon a certain frequency. This frequency determines your choice of service to the one Creator. As it happens to this group's vibratory patterns, and those of Ra are compatible, and enable us to speak through this instrument with your support. This is a function of free will. A portion, seemingly, of the Creator rejoices at your choice to question us regarding the evolution of spirit. A seemingly separate portion would wish for multitudinous answers to a great range of queries of a specific nature. Another seemingly separate group of your peoples would wish this correspondence through this instrument to cease, feeling it to be of a negative nature. Upon the many other planes of existence, there are those whose every fiber rejoices at your service, and those such as the entity of whom you have been speaking, which wish only to terminate the life upon the third density plane of this instrument. All are in the Creator. There is one vast panoply of biases and distortions, colors and hues, in an unending pattern. In the case of those with whom you, as entities and as a group, are not in resonance, you wish them love, light, peace, and joy, and bid them well. No more than this can you do for your portion of the Creator is as it is, and your experience and offerings of experience to be valuable needs to be more and more a perfect representation of who you truly are. Could you then serve a negative entity by offering the instrument's life? It is unlikely that you would find this a true service. Thus, you may only see in many cases the loving balance being achieved, the love being offered, light being sent, and the service of the service-to-self-oriented entity gratefully acknowledging, while being rejected, as not being useful in your journey at this time. Thus, you serve one Creator without paradox. Questioner: this particular entity is able to create, with its service, a dizzying effect on this instrument. Could you describe the mechanics of such a service? Ra: I am Ra. This instrument, in the small times of its incarnation, had the distortion in the area of the otic complex of many infections, which caused great difficulties at the small age, as you would call it. The scars of these distortions remain, and indeed that which you call the sinus system remains distorted. Thus, the entity works with these distortions to produce a loss of the balance and a slight lack of ability to use the optic apparatus. Questioner: I was wondering about the magical, shall I say, principles behind the fifth density entity giving this service and his ability to give it. Why is he able to utilize these particular physical distortions from a philosophical or magical point of view? Ra: I am Ra. This entity is able to, shall we say, penetrate in time-space configuration the field of this particular entity. It has moved through the quarantine without any vehicle, and thus has been more able to escape detection by the net of the guardians. This is the great virtue of the magical workings, whereby consciousness is sent forth essentially without a vehicle as light. The light would work instantly upon an untuned individual by suggestion, that is, the stepping out in front of the traffic, because of suggestion is that there is no traffic. This entity, as each in this group, is enough disciplined in the ways of love and light that it is not suggestible to any great extent. However, there is a predisposition of the physical complex which this entity is making maximal use of as regards to the instrument, hoping, for instance, by means of increasing dizziness, to cause the instrument to fall, or, indeed, walk in front of your traffic because of impaired vision. The magical principles, shall we say, may be loosely translated into your system of magic, whereby symbols are used and traced and visualized in order to develop the power of the light. Questioner: do you mean that this fifth density entity visualizes certain symbols? I am assuming that these symbols are of a nature where their continued use would have some power or charge. Am I correct? Ra: I am Ra. You are correct. And fifth density light is as visible a tool as your pencil's writing. Questioner: Then am I correct in assuming this entity configures the light into symbology, that is, what we would call a physical presence? Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is incorrect. The light is used to create a sufficient purity of environment for the entity to place its consciousness in a carefully created light vehicle, which then uses the tools of light to do its working. The will and presence are those of the entity doing the working. Questioner. Are you familiar with the book that the instrument and I wrote approximately 12 years ago called The Crucifixion of Esmeralda Sweetwater? In particular, the banishing ritual used to bring the entities to Earth. Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Were there any incorrectnesses in our writing with respect to the way this was performed? Ra. I am Ra. The incorrectnesses occurred only due to the difficulty an author would have in describing the length of training necessary to enable the ones known in that particular writings as Theodore and Pablo in the necessary disciplines. Questioner. It has seemed to me that that book has somehow, in its entirety, been a link to many of those whom I have met since we wrote it, and to many of the activities we have experienced. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is quite so. Questioner. I will ask about that in a later session, since I don't want to get off track, because it has something to do with the mechanics of time, which I am very puzzled about. But I would ask then, the fifth density entity in coming here to offer us service, as you've mentioned, penetrated the quarantine. Was this done through one of the windows, or was this because of his, shall I say, magical ability? Ra. I am Ra. This was done through a very slight window, which less magically oriented entities or groups could not have used to advantage. Questioner. Now, the main point of this line of questioning has to do with the first distortion and the fact that this window existed. Was this, shall I say, a portion of the random window effect? And are we experiencing the same type of balancing and receiving the offerings of this entity as the planet in general receives because of the window effect? Ra. I am Ra. This is precisely correct. As the planetary sphere accepts more highly evolved positive entities or groups with information to offer, the same opportunity must be offered to similarly wise negatively oriented entities or groups. Questioner. Then we experience in this seeming difficulty the what I would call effect of the wisdom of the first distortion, and for that reason must fully accept the wisdom of that which we experience. This is my personal view. Is it congruent with Ra's? Ra. I am Ra. In our view, we would perhaps go further in expressing appreciation of this opportunity. This is an intensive opportunity in that it is quite marked in its effects, both actual and potential, and as it affects the instrument's distortion towards pain and other difficulties such as the dizziness, it enables the instrument to continuously choose to serve others and to serve the Creator. Similarly, it offers a continual opportunity for each in the group to express support under more distorted or difficult circumstances of the other self experiencing the brunt, shall we say, of this attack, thus being able to demonstrate the love and light of the infinite Creator, and, furthermore, choosing working by working to continue to serve as messengers for this information which we attempt to offer and serve the Creator thereby. Thus, the opportunities are quite noticeable, as well as the distortions caused by the circumstance. Questioner. Thank you. Is this so-called attack offered to myself and Jim as well as the instrument? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. I personally have felt no effect that I am aware of. Is it possible for you to tell me how we are offered this service? Ra. I am Ra. The questioner has been offered the service of doubting the self and of becoming disheartened over various distortions of the personal nature. This entity has not chosen to use these opportunities, and the Orion entity has basically ceased to be interested in maintaining constant surveillance of this entity. The scribe is under constant surveillance and has been offered numerous opportunities for the intensification of the mental emotional distortions and, in some cases, the connection matrices between mental emotional complexes and the physical complex counterpart. As this entity has become aware of these attacks, it has become much less pervious to them. This is the particular cause of the great intensification and consistency of the surveillance of the instrument. for it is the weak link due to the factors beyond its control within this incarnation. Questioner, is it within the first distortion to tell me why the instrument experienced so many physical distortions during the new times of its incarnation? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, in that case, can you answer me as to why the instrument experienced so much during its early years? Ra, I am Ra. We were affirming the correctness of your assumption that such answers would be breaking the way of confusion. It is not appropriate for such answers to be laid out as a table spread for dinner. It is appropriate that the complexes of opportunity involved be contemplated. Questioner, then there is no other service that we can at this time offer that fifth density entity of the Orion group who is so constantly with us. As I see it now, there is nothing that we can do for him from your point of view. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. There is great humor in your attempts to be of polarized service to the opposite polarity. There is a natural difficulty in doing so, since what you consider service is considered by this entity non-service. As you send this entity love and light and wish it well, it loses its polarity and needs to regroup. Thus, it would not consider your service as such. On the other hand, if you allowed it to be of service by removing this instrument from your midst, you might perhaps perceive this as not being of service. You have here a balanced and polarized view of the Creator. Two services offered, mutually rejected, and in a state of equilibrium in which free will is preserved, and each allowed to go upon its own path of experiencing the one infinite Creator. Questioner, thank you. In closing that part of the discussion, I would just say that if there is anything that we can do that is within our ability, and I understand that there are many things, such as the ones that you've just mentioned, that are not within our ability, that we could do for this particular entity, if you would in the future communicate its requests to us, we will at least consider them because we would like to serve in every respect. Is this agreeable to you? Ra, I am Ra. We perceive that we have not been able to clarify your service versus its desire for service. You need, in our humble opinion, to look at the humor of the situation and relinquish your desire to serve where no service is requested. The magnet will attract or repel. Glory in the strength of your polarization and allow others of opposite polarity to similarly do so. Seeing the great humor of this polarity and its complications in view of the unification in sixth density of these two paths. Questioner, thank you very much. I have a statement here that I will quickly read and have you comment on the accuracy or inaccuracy. In general, the archetypal mind is a representation of facets of the one infinite Creator. The father archetype corresponds to the male or positive aspect of electromagnetic energy and is active, creative, and radiant, as in our local sun. The mother archetype corresponds to the female or negative aspect of electromagnetic energy and is receptive or magnetic, as is our Earth, as it receives the sun's rays and brings forth life via third density fertility. The prodigal son or the fool archetype corresponds to every entity who seems to have strayed from the unity and seeks to return to the one infinite Creator. The devil archetype represents the illusion of the material world and the appearance of evil, but it is more accurate the provider of catalysts for the growth of each entity within the third density illusion. The magician, saint, healer, or adept corresponds to the higher self, and because of the balance within its energy centers, pierces the illusion to contact intelligent infinity, and thereby demonstrates mastery of the catalyst of third density. The archetype of death symbolizes the transition of an entity from the yellow ray body to the green ray body, either temporarily between incarnations or, more permanently, at harvest. Each archetype presents an aspect of the one infinite Creator to teach the individual mind-body-spirit complex according to the calling or the electromagnetic configuration of mind of the entity. Teaching is done via the intuition. With proper seeking or mind configuration, the power of will uses the spirit as a shuttle to contact the appropriate archetypal aspect necessary for the teach learning. In the same way, each of the other informers of intuition are contacted. They are hierarchical and proceed from the entity's own subconscious mind to group or planetary mind to guides to higher self to archetypal mind, to cosmic mind, or intelligent infinity. Each is contacted by the spirit serving as a shuttle according to the harmonized electromagnetic configurations of the seeker's mind and the information sought. Will you please comment on the accuracy of these observations and correct any errors or fill in any omissions? Ra. I am Ra. The entity has been using transferred energy for most of this session due to its depleted physical levels. We shall begin this rather complex answer, which is interesting, but do not expect to finish it. Those portions which we do not respond to, we ask that you re-question us upon our working in your future. Questioner. Perhaps it would be better to start the next session with the answer to this question. Would that be appropriate, or is the energy already fixed? Ra. I am Ra. The energy is always allotted. The choice is always yours. Questioner. In that case, continue. Ra. I am Ra. Perhaps the first item which we shall address is the concept of the spirit used as a shuttle between the roots and the trunk of mind. This is misapprehension, and we shall allow the questioner to consider the function of the spirit further, for in working with the mind, we are working within one complex and have not yet attempted to penetrate intelligent infinity. It is well said that archetypes are portions of the one infinite creator, or aspects of its face. It is, however, far better to realize that the archetypes, while constant in the complex of generative energies offered, do not give the same yield of these complexes to any two seekers. Each seeker will experience each archetype in the characteristics within the complex of the archetype which are most important to it. An example of this would be the observation of the questioner that the fool is described in such and such a way. One great aspect of this archetype is the aspect of faith, the walking into space without regard for what is to come next. This is, of course, foolish, but is part of the characteristic of the spiritual neophyte. That this aspect was not seen may be pondered by the questioner. At this time, we shall again request that the query be restated at the next working, and we shall at this time cease using this instrument. Before we leave, may we ask if there are any short questions? Questioner. Only if there is anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact. Ra. I am Ra. Continue, my friends, in the strength of harmony, love, and light. All is well. The alignments are appreciated for their careful placement. I am Ra. I leave you now, my friends, in the glory of the love and the light of the infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle, of course, doing Law of One, and I hope you guys are getting a fun experience with this as well. We have a couple points I have, and then I think I got a couple questions that have popped up. If you guys got questions, throw them in there. Just put question in front. It makes it easier to find it. For my lovely friend A-Score, thank you so much for all your help. Thought forms 5D and above. This is something that, by the way, just kind of comes in with the whole 3i Atlas thing right now. Any higher dimensional being is using thought forms to travel. They don't need physical craft. So this, I don't know, there's a lot of weirdness with everything that's going on. All that said, thought forms, they send them, they look physical. They're more than holographs, but probably that's a great way to look at it. Like it would look legitimate. Like if you walked around it, it would look like a physical thing. But if you touched it, maybe even probably, because they're higher dimensional thought forms. It's like, so it's physical to all intents and purposes, but you might not be able to take it apart. I wonder if some of those are the ones that are like, there's no riveting or anything. Anyway, it's interesting. The dark, I call it the dark. I don't know, service to self, which is, calling them dark is not, fair to them. They're not necessarily evil, though they're very selfish in their own accords, and oftentimes use people. So not the best of us. I'm just, trying to be fair. I'm like the guy was trying to explain, like, I'm the one that wants to like hug them. Like, can't I just hug the evil out of you? And it's like, nah, it just doesn't work that way. It's like waking somebody up. Apparently you can't hug the bad out of somebody. You want to, you do, but it doesn't work. So yeah, the dark, they'll always try to find ways to break your stride, break your power, break your abilities, get you to fumble, get you to question yourself, get you to doubt yourself, get you to think that you're not really, or you're too fat, or you're like whatever your thing is. They're going to come at you from the opposite direction. They do it. It's an insecurity on most of our parts. Most of us just have to accept that we're flawed people, and it's much easier that way. Once you kind of do, life is good and groovy. But when you're in this constant, like, trying to present something that's not real, like a lot of us do. We have this facade. We have this fake version of us that we present to everybody else, but it's not really really us, because the real us was just trying 5 minutes ago, right? Like, or whatever. Like we kind of jump all over the place. We've got to be able to be authentic with who we are. First off, just for ourselves. You don't necessarily have to broadcast it to the world. It helps to have your stuff situated before you start broadcasting to the world. But it is important to kind of understand that, because the dark is going to try to mess with that. And that's all it can do. I think one of the questions has to do with how the dark can affect us. And I mean, we'll see. I'll answer it better, I hope, coming up. But I didn't really actually read it. But we have to understand our own selves. We have to have faith and confidence in our own abilities. And so then when we are challenged, when our fears are exposed to us, we won't react the way that evil wants us to. I'm calling it evil because it makes it easier. Some of you guys might actually be service to self. I'm not trying to be a dick. Symbols are important to everybody. Symbols are symbols. I'm going to come back up with the archetype stuff too, but symbols are symbols. Okay. So a plus sign might mean one thing to you and it might mean another thing to somebody else. Again, it's just, symbols are a funny thing. Numbers are a funny thing. There's a lot of great ways that the physical world can talk to you that may be different than others. You can go to a movie that somebody else has seen and see the exact same movie and actually walk out of it and have just like kind of be touched in totally different ways. The Bible is a great example. A lot of people read that book and they have very different experiences from it. It's kind of one of the things that's exceptionally beautiful about it. So symbols are a powerful thing. They can be used intentionally by yourself. And I frequently do this a lot. Universe numbers. I have a numerology site that I'm fond of. I'm not trying to sell it. And I'm not trying to tell anyone find your own thing, find your own way. But for me, this is just one example. There's a site I go to. Universe and I have this understanding. You show me some weird ass numbers, that's where I'm going to go to get what the hell you're showing me. There's another thing I do too with animals. Animals are another one. So there's certain things that I can make up my own rules, if you will, or at least the blueprint that I'm going to follow and say, hey, universe source, this is what I'm going to use. Help me out. Help me help myself. And you'll get some really, really cool signs and symbols. And again, same goes with feelings and experiences, people. There's just a whole lot of different ways that can come to you. Training, they talked about, there's a point in there, I wrote it down, just like generally speaking, to become a master, it's like a 20-year process. So don't be like quick to jump on that bandwagon per se. I recommend every one of you do it, but it is literally a challenge. There's a couple of you out there that I know have been on that path for sure. And you guys can certainly speak to that in the chat if you want. Actual versus potential. One great way to look at this, and they talk about this in the sense of law of one. This was done back in the 80s, right? Early 80s. And they didn't realize, they had an idea, but they didn't realize how many people would look at this throughout the years later, right? That was the potential of this information. At the moment, the actual was helping these individuals, and they're making an example. A lot of people learned some stuff from it, but the potential was all the people that would come later. That's kind of a trip when you think about the giantess. The videos are the same way, right? You have a lot of you guys that are into live videos and all that, right? Well, the live is the live, and that's your actual. But then afterwards, maybe, hopefully, some people come and watch it later. And those are the potentials. And in most cases, the potential number is usually significantly higher than the law or the live. So it's fun. It's a neat way to kind of pay attention to how things are and can be. And anyway, you're always trying to. Yeah, that's good enough. Doubting self, sick. This kind of goes back to the evil trying to mess with us and making yourself sick. They'll get you so you don't sleep well. Like just that's one of the things that the dark will do is they'll mess with things that can affect you, that can make you ill. And it's not they can't make you ill, but they can mess with you while you sleep. And sometimes you need to have prayer. You need to be able to put on your armor of God, or you need to be able to surround yourself in a Christ white light, or you need to whatever, or have a Lord Michael help you, protect yourself, or whatever your method is. Right? That's one method that you might use. There's a number of different scenarios that are out there, and so a lot of us, you kind of got to have a set of tools to deal with the potential. They can't force anything on you. But as you get further and further down this path, you will see weirder and weirder stuff. You just will. That's the way it is. It's the number of the beast, as they would say. Let's see. And finally, archetypes or symbols. Archetypes are just a very specific kind of symbol. I was going to go try to dig out my cards, but I think they're in my closet, and I wasn't 100% sure where they are right now. But I think I have the Brotherhood of Light's one set of cards I have. I might have another set, but I have cards. I've thrown cards. I know a lot about cards. I don't have them all memorized, but I do have a book, and it's one of the things like when I'd throw it, I'd use the book to kind of give me an idea what the card basically meant, and then I would use that to kind of get my vibe, if you will, from the throw. And again, archetypes are symbols. I mean, when you're dealing with a lot of the others, you've got your pentacles, you've got your wands, you've got your right, like you got all your different cups. I'm drawing a blank on the other one. What am I missing? There's another one. But you've got your different suits, if you will, of the deck. But then you've got your like king, queens, essentially, or your archetypes. And so they're symbols. They represent what they represent. They represent relative to the question being asked, relative to the experience that the individual is currently seeking or experiencing. All right, I think that's decent. All right, questions, and then we're going to hop into this last one. Pet1985 says, question, Dan, do you think our groups could be under psychic attack? Could that be why us having the problems with the show that we've been having? Pet, I don't think we as a group necessarily are being a psychic attack because, again, it goes back to that live thing versus the bigger picture. But I think it invites all of us to appreciate the concept of the psychic attack. The psychic attack can't hurt you, and it's one of those things that's going to happen, especially as you become a brighter and brighter light, and more moths of bad varieties are going to come your way. So it's important to be confident and comfortable with the fact that you're going to get some of that. And so I think there's some of that is built into this too, like the ability to get used to the attacks. When you have your shield up, your vortex up, like I've had some unique experiences lately. You're probably talking about some too, and Pet, you're definitely one that would typically have some. You've got some crazy going on. It's for us to learn how to manage our own shields, manage our own vortex, manage our own energy. And it's very important, I think, as we evolve higher and higher in this density and higher in our understanding or even mastery, if you will, we're going to find that the dark will attack you more and more. So I think, yes, is it tied into this because you guys are all unique and you guys are ripple makers? For sure. And then two, yeah, we've got to learn. All they can do is tempt you. All they can do is annoy you. All they can do is like, dang it, I dropped that thing again, right? Like, that's all they can do. They can just mess with you in weird ways. And it is annoying. But you also have the power within yourself to counter that, to be more than that. And when you're actually operating in the my energy is more than that, and it kind of almost radiates and expands outward from you, they actually can't cause you to drop things anymore. They can't cause you to do weird things because you've filled that energy up with love vibration with you, with the, I don't know how you define that, like Christ white light was like what a lot of people would say. All right. Ralt 77 question. How do we know we are sending love and light to the right entity, the one infinite creator, or receiving from creator. So sending energies is and I'm gonna kind of make a deal on this just because it matters, but I'm gonna answer it both ways. Sending energy, you send it out to everybody. So whatever you're sending out, like however you send it, like it doesn't matter what it is, whether you're just like da da da, or like prayer or something great, like you sending it to everybody. Everybody and their mother can hear that if they're tuned, if they're able to. Now, when it comes to receiving energy, it depends how you do it. There's a lot of people. There's people that are calling themselves channels. There's people that are pulling a lot of experiences, possibly from past lives, is I think my actual best bet. But there's people that are pulling information from a number of locations. And this information obviously gets pulled through our filters, right? But at the same time, who's feeding that info to us? And some people just kind of open their microphone up. They're like, I'd like to channel such and such, or someone from Arcturians, or some Pleiadian, or like, right? And when you come at it from a very sort of blind way, you're going to end up with some like, hey, is this thing on? You know, you're going to get somebody that's going to mess with you. And again, it'll happen. One of the keys is knowing how. When they mess with you, one of the things you're going to see is they're going to bring up again. They're going to try to make you feel bad. They're going to try to question what you're doing. They're going to try to get you to doubt yourself. It'll start off cool at first. Generally, it works in some ego way. You know, you've got special skills. You're actually a unique healer. You're able to do this thing and nobody else can. Like, it comes at you from that angle, and then it leads you down a path of thought. That's what it does. So it is important to recognize what you're receiving. If you're just going to open the microphone up to anybody. Now, if you're specifically saying, and you can control to a large extent when you're very specific, you can control the energy, you can control the environment, and you can certainly control who's hopping on, because it's a direct call, if you will. It's like a cell phone call. You're specifically dialing Ashtar, or you're specifically dialing Yogananda, or whatever. You're specifically dialing in Jesus. Then that's the number you're calling. But if you're just like, I want a Pleiadian, or if you're kind of being sort of generic about it, I'd love to contact an extraterrestrial, which some people are doing right now. Like, if you're kind of blindly going about it, you will definitely open up to all sorts of negative creatures. In fact, there's a bunch of people that are content creators that I'm hearing doing it right now. They're talking to people that's like, and again, this discernment's going to happen for all of us, and we've got to learn to get good at that. All said, hopefully this is helping. That's great questions. We're going to go into this last one. This one kind of gets into this individual named Lotwi. It's kind of an interesting example of channeling, like what I was kind of just talking about. Lotwi is, I don't know anything about. It is solely a law of one thing. They brought it up. I've known people that have talked about all sorts of different people channeled, all sorts of different people. I've heard a number of video channels that were channeling specific personalities. Like, again, and I'm not poo-pooing anything at all. I am saying whenever anybody steps up to the microphone, you got to pay a lot of attention to the message. And that's how you'll know whether they're good or bad. They'll always start off good. Always start off good. But then they'll start to steer in directions. You'll be like, If you're at least aware of certain things, you'll catch it. You'll catch it. So there's some of that. I said there's some spooky stuff in here. I don't remember exactly what I was referring, but we'll talk about it after. Incarnation in bad form, bad space time. So this talks about, just to give a little heads up on it, to be able to put yourself into a situation where your life ends in a way that you are confused can create a situation where you can have like a hell. Like, I mean, there's not really such a thing, but there is, in that it's not a choice of God putting you there. It's a choice of us separating and not believing reality or even help from others. If you guys have seen What Dreams May Come, it's what happens to the wife, the mom, She ends up in a place where she believes uh, outside of reality, and it's such a beautiful movie. Robin Williams' character goes down there and basically starts to forget, and he was about to be stuck in hell forever with her, but at least he was with her, and she saves him actually because he saved her. It's actually, if you guys have never seen that movie, it's one of the best movies I think that talks about the concept of death. Really, really well, like really, really well. Beautiful movie. Also, let's see what else we got. Psychic attack, how it happens. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk, I guess, more about that because they do. They're all going to be attacked. Ultimately, it's what takes down Carla in the end. Carla dies. Like, spoiler alert. We've got, I don't know, 40 plus more episodes, 40-ish more episodes. And yeah, I mean, she ultimately, this is doing this work. You have to be geared well, and a lot of people don't make it. And so again, as part of the experience of the learn, teach, learning that I embarked on, and I knew this when I was taking this on. So I again, not trying to do anything crazy, but at the same time, I realize I'm stepping into a minefield. So I love you guys. This is part of the journey, and nothing special. It's just this. I knew this was one of the things that I'm here to do. I want to do. I need to do. And I'm glad you guys are doing it with me. That's all I can say. We're going on session 68. It's the Law of One. And awesome stuff. I love this. It's on the Fringe. On session 68, recorded August 18th, 1981. Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner. Could you first please give me an indication of the instrument's condition? Ra. I am Ra. This instrument's physical energies are depleted completely. The remainder is as previously stated. Questioner, with the physical energies depleted completely, should I continue with the session? I'm not sure exactly what that means. Ra, I am Ra. We have available transferred energy, which is due to the service offered by two of this group, and therefore, we are able to continue. Were it not for this transferred energy, the instrument, whose will is strong, would have depleted its vital energies by willing the available resources. Thus, if there is no transfer of energy, and if the instrument seems depleted to the extent it is now, it is well to refrain from using the instrument. If there is energy transferred, this service may be accepted without damage to the distortion of normal vital energy. We may note that the physical energy has been exhausted, not due to the distortion towards pain, although this is great at this space-time, but primarily due to the cumulative effects of continual experience of this distortion. Questioner, would you recommend a greater rest period between the end of this session and the next session? Would that help the instrument? Ra. I am Ra. We might suggest, as always, that the support group watch the instrument with care and make the decision based upon observation. It is not within our capacity to specifically recommend a future decision. We would note that our previous recommendations of one working on alternate diurnal periods did not take into account the fragility of this instrument, and thus, we would ask your forgiveness for this suggestion. At this nexus, our distortion is towards a flexible scheduling of workings based upon, as we said, the support group's decision concerning the instrument. We would again note that there is a fine line between the care of the instrument for continued use, which we find acceptable, and the proper understanding, if you will excuse this misnomer, of the entire group's need to work in service. Thus, if the instrument's condition is truly marginal, by all means, let more rest occur between workings. However, if there is desire for the working, and the instrument is at all able to, in your careful opinion, it is, shall we say, a well-done action for this group to work. We cannot be more precise, for this contact is a function of your free will. Questioner, the primary reason that we considered it important to have this session today is that I might not be around for a while, and I had a pressing question about what happened Sunday night when apparently the instrument was slipping into a trance state during one of the normal meetings, and I would like to question you on this. Can you give me information about what happened? Ra. I am Ra. We can. Questioner. Would you tell me what happened in that case? Ra. I am Ra. We have instructed this instrument to refrain from calling us unless it is within the set of circumscribed circumstances. In the event which you speak, this instrument was asked a question which pertained to what you have been calling the raw material. This instrument was provided the voice for our brothers and sisters of the wisdom density known to you as Latwi. This instrument thought to itself, I do not know this answer. I wish I were channeling Ra. The ones of Lotwi found themselves in the position of being approached by the Orion entity which seeks to be of service in its own way. The instrument began to prepare for Ra contact. Lotwi knew that if this was completed, the Orion entity would have an opportunity which Lotwi wished to avoid. It is fortunate for this instrument, firstly, that Lotwi is of fifth density and able to deal with that particular vibratory complex which the Orion entity was manifesting, and secondly, that there was those in the support group at that time which sent great amount of support to the instrument in this crux. Thus, what occurred was the ones of Lotwi never let go of this instrument, although this came perilously close to breaking the way of confusion. It continued to hold its connection with the mind-body-spirit complex of the instrument and to generate information through it, even as the instrument began to slip out of its physical vehicle. The act of continued communication caused the entity to be unable to grasp the instrument's mind-body-spirit complex, and after but a small measure of your space-time, Lotwi recovered the now completely amalgamated instrument and gave it continued communication to steady it during the transition back into integration. Questioner: could you tell me what the plan of the fifth density negatively oriented entity was, and how it would have accomplished it, and what the results would have been if it had worked? Ra: I am Ra. The plan, which is ongoing, was to take the mind-body-spirit complex while it was separated from its yellow body physical complex shell, to then place this mind-body-spirit complex within the negative portions of your time-space. The shell would then become that of the unknowing, unconscious entity, and could be, shall we say, worked upon to cause malfunction, which would end in coma and then in what you would call the death of the body. At this point, the higher self of the instrument would have the choice of leaving the mind-body-spirit complex in negative SP, time-space, or of allowing incarnation in space-time of equivalent vibration and polarity distortions. Thus, this entity would become a negatively polarized entity without the advantage of native negative polarization. It would find a long path to the Creator under these circumstances, although the path would inevitably end well. Questioner: then you are saying that if this fifth density negative entity is successful in its attempts to transfer the mind-body-spirit complex, when that complex is in what we call the trance state to negatively polarized time-space, then the higher self has no choice but to allow incarnation into negatively polarized space-time? Is that correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is incorrect. The higher self could allow the mind-body-spirit complex to remain in time-space. However, it is unlikely that the higher self would do so indefinitely due to its distortion towards the belief that the function of the mind-body-spirit complex is to experience and learn from other selves, thus experiencing the Creator. A highly polarized positive mind-body-spirit complex surrounded by negative portions of space-time will experience only darkness, for like the magnet, there is no, shall we say, likeness. Thus, a barrier is automatically formed. Questioner: let me be sure that I understand you. Is that darkness experienced in negative space-time or in negative time-space? Ra: I am Ra. Negative time-space. Questioner: incarnation in negative space-time, then, in a condition like that, would result in incarnation into which density level for, let us take for an example, the instrument? Ra: I am Ra. The answer to this query violates the first distortion. Questioner: okay, let's not take the instrument then as an example. Let's say that this was done to a wanderer of sixth density. If this answer violates the first distortion, don't answer. But let's say a sixth density wanderer had this happen and went into negative time-space. Would that be a sixth density negative time-space? And would he incarnate into sixth density negative space-time? Ra: I am Ra. Your assumption is correct. The strength of the polarization would be matched as far as possible. In some positive sixth density wanderers, the approximation would not quite be complete due to the paucity of negative sixth density energy fields of the equivalent strength. Questioner: is the reason that this could be done the fact that the wanderer's mind-body-spirit complex extracted in what we call the trance state, leaving the third density physical? In this state, the wanderer does not have the full capacity or capability to magically defend itself? Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. In the case of this instrument, this is correct. This is also correct when applied almost without exception to those instruments working in trance, which have not consciously experienced magical training in time-space in the, shall we say, present incarnation. The entities of your density capable of magical defense in this situation are extremely rare. Questioner: it would seem to me that since I can't imagine anything worse, shall I say, than this particular result, other than possibly the total disintegration of the mind-body-spirit complex due to nuclear bomb, that it would be very advisable to seek out the magical training and defense for this situation. Could Ra and would Ra instruct in this type of magical defense? Ra: I am Ra. This request lies beyond the first distortion. The entity seeking magical ability must do so in a certain manner. We may give instructions of a general nature. This we have already done. The instrument has begun the process of balancing the self. This is a lengthy process. To take an entity before it is ready and offer it the scepter of magical power is to infringe in an unbalanced manner. We may suggest with some asperity that the instrument never call upon Ra in any way while unprotected by the configuration which is at this time present. Questioner: we have been speaking almost precisely of the portion of the Esmeralda Sweetwater book which we wrote having to do with Trostrick's misplacement of the space girl's mind-body-spirit complex. What is the significance of that work that we did with respect to our lives? It has been confusing to me for some time how that meshes in. Can you tell me that? Ra: I am Ra. We scan each and find we may speak. Questioner: would you please do so now? Ra: I am Ra. We confirm the following, which is already, shall we say, supposed or hypothesized. When the commitment was made between two of this group to work for the betterment of the planetary sphere, this commitment activated a possibility-probability vortex of some strength. The experience of generating this volume was unusual in that it was visualized as if watching the moving picture. Time had become available in its present moment form. The scenario of the volume went smoothly until the ending of the volume. You could not end the volume, and the ending was not visualized as the entire body of the material, but was written or authored. This is due to the action of free will in all of the creation. However, the volume contains a view of significant events, both symbolically and specifically, which you saw under the influence of the magnetic attraction which was released when the commitment was made, and full memory of the dedication of this, what you may call, mission restored. Questioner: we have a situation with which I am concerned having to do with the understanding, I shall say, poor word of course, completely this activity occurs due to polarity. I think that it is important for me to investigate the techniques. If they are within the first distortion of the fifth density negative entity who wishes to displace the mind-body-spirit complexes of this group, am I within the first distortion in asking you to describe how this entity goes about this working? Ra: I am Ra. You are. Questioner: well, how does the fifth density entity go about this working from the very start of his being alerted to the fact that we exist? How does that occur? Can you please trace the steps that he involves himself in? Please. Ra: I am Ra. The entity becomes aware of power. This power has the capacity of energizing those which may be available for harvest. This entity is desirous of disabling the power source. It sends its legions. Temptations are offered. They are ignored or rejected. The power source persists and indeed improves its interconnections of harmony and love of service. The entity determines that it needs attempts the disabling itself. By means of projection, it enters the vicinity of this power source. It assesses the situation. It is bound by the first distortion, but may take advantage of any free will distortion. The free will, pre-incarnative distortions of the instrument with regards to the physical vehicle seems the most promising target. Any distortions away from service to others is also appropriate. When the instrument leaves its physical vehicle, it does so freely. Thus, the misplacement of the mind-body-spirit complex of the instrument would not be a violation of its free will if it followed the entity freely. This is the process. We are aware of your pressing desire to know how to become impervious as a group to any influences such as this. The process which you seek are a matter of your free choice. You are aware of this principles of magical work. We cannot speak to advise, but can only suggest, as we have before, that it would be appropriate for this group to embark upon such a path as a group, but not individually for obvious reasons. Questioner: I am interested in how the first distortion applies to the negatively polarized entity misplacing the mind-body-spirit complex. Why is the negatively polarized entity followed to the place of negative time-space? Why would one of us freely follow the entity? Ra: I am Ra. The positive polarity sees love in all things. The negative polarity is clever. Questioner: Then I am assuming if the negative polarity used any other approach that did not use the free will of the other self, he would lose magical polarization and power. This is correct, isn't it? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. The transferred energy grows low. We wish to close. Are there any short queries before we leave this instrument? Questioner: Only, is there anything we can do to make this instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra: I am Ra. You are conscientious. We realize your necessity for these queries. All is well, my friends. We thank you and leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. Of course, Law of One, session 68. Got some great conversations going on. We got this Blister guy, Blister 1967. You seem to kind of know your stuff. I basically, I agree with you. One small addendum I might add to what you're putting in there, which is fantastic. So very good stuff. Love that. Maybe we got another question. We'll see. I will share the link for the StreamYard after when I go to the closeout of the show. So if you guys are around, we'll do, 10, 15, 20 minutes. I'm got a lot going on today, so we'll do a short one. But anyone got any questions or anything crazy, or just, come on in. I'll share that StreamYard link and you can come on in and join. It won't be broadcast. It will be just all of us hanging out. So that said, our reality is ours. This is the first thing I wrote down. Our reality is our reality. You spend 100% of your time with you, right? You might have other people you share time with. You might spend time with us right now, or you're sharing sort of, but still we're not the same reality, right? Your reality is what it is in your room right now. You're broadcasting this, or you're streaming this, or whatever. And my room is my room right now, right? Girlfriend's downstairs right now. Like, I am, that's my experience of this right now. It's different than yours. And so each one of us has our own reality. So your experience, how you participate, what you get involved in, and how your temptations come back to you are your stepping stones. See, every one of us is here to make a difference. All of us. At least if you're listening to this, you're here to make a difference. How you do that, what you do, and when the temptations come, how do you handle those? A lot of us like to be critical of the people that are in our positions of government, which, God, I'd never want to be. I hope I don't have to ever. I swear I don't want to have to. If I do, whatever, someone's going to have to help a lot, but I don't want to do that. But going into that, you've got to be able to do the right thing when being tempted. So our reality is ours, each individually. And it's hard sometimes. A lot of us like to lump ourselves, it's his fault. He's not doing his thing. And well, no, it's 100% you. This guy Lotwe, or girl, I don't know what Lotwe was. They conjoined a channel. It's kind of an interesting thing. So they had a channel going between Lotwe and Carla. They initiated it how they initiated it. I don't know the specs. So there's the Blister guy was talking about how they did it differently. What I do know, and this is where I guess I slightly asterisk on Blister, it's Carla was already channeling the one individual who was a fifth density individual, and then decided, this is a great question to ask Ra. So in the same phone call, if you will, it was like, hey, Ra, what's going on? And now we've got this dual stream kind of thing going on, which the Ghostbusters told us never to do. So essentially, they created a weird situation. Lotwe didn't want to let go because essentially Lotwe had access to a higher density being. And it was like, sweet, right? That was pretty cool. But at the same time, that was not the intention of the experience. Lotwe was fortunately mature enough to handle the situation, and Ra kind of understood immediately what was going on. But again, Carla was the initiator of this. Once again, the power of ourselves. So that experience was, it's most importantly telling how your microphone works, right? You can put that up in front of everybody right now, but your microphone is your microphone. Your reality is your reality. Be careful. There's wonders to behold, and there's terrors to find. And I'm not trying to freak you out in any stretch of the imagination. You'll figure it out quickly. And spiraling down to terrors, you've made many, many, many wrong choices along the way. But for the most part, you'll figure it out, and it's cool. You'll actually enjoy the ride. It's pretty fun. Very powerful, in fact. One thing they said it was funny is they were asking a question about this fifth density being that's kind of messing with them, right? And he's like, if it's successful, what's it going to do? And this goes back to the kind of the thinking. Prepare for the worst, of course. What's it trying to do? It's trying to ruin my life. All right, cool. Let's be prepared for that. But if it's successful is an unacceptable answer in my mind, right? And so maybe that's one of the things that's armor of God is that mental block that can happen inside your own self, right? That ability to be like, no, this is not possible. La, 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 right? Like be aware of the fact that the universe is maybe showing you something, but something thinking it has power over you is not true. You are the ultimate creator. This reality is yours. Don't let anything think it's got power over you. Or AI is another thing that people are freaking out about right now. AI does not have power over you unless you give it power. See, that's the thing that so many people do willingly. And then, I don't know what happened. I don't know why my kids are messed up. Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, because YouTube raised them. That's why. Finally, whoever stands up, you will be tested. Whoever you are, any of you that has the gumption, to put it in nice terms, to stand up, make a difference in this world, you will be tested. And the bigger you become, the more you will be tested. How can I stop that? You can't. That's part of what this experience is. Step up to the plate. Be change. Be part of this. Be an experiencer. Not only just hold the flashlight, point it at shit. You'll be amazed at what happens. You guys that are here right now, especially the 109 of you, you guys are a big deal. At least 105 of you. I don't know, there might be some bullshit in there. We're here to change the world. You're going to be tempted. You're going to have moments where something's going to hit the pillow next to you and it's going to freak you out a little bit, but there's nothing there. It's okay. You're always protected. All right. Well, see, I think I might have a question. I think I sort of covered Blister's thing. At least the part that I wanted to cover. Blister's very chatty in there. A lot of stuff going on. I don't know. I'm not going to read it all right now. Arlene put in here, no questions. Cool. So we are looking like we have gotten ourselves to a wonderful place. And guys, I love you. I appreciate you joining me on this Law of One journey. Yeah, exactly, Tattooed Tammy. Exactly. I like it. She used the F word, and I always think that's a wonderful thing. The F word is not used appropriately and often enough. This case, certainly appropriate, Tammy. You beautiful job. Well done. That was like, if that was an F word usage, that was it right there. That was it right there in a nutshell. That's right. I love you guys. We're going to keep fighting the fight. We're going to keep doing more of this. I got, since we're half of the number, we're looking at 50 more or so? So 25 more weeks-ish? I don't know. We're going to be done at some point, guys. And we're going to kick some booty, as they would say in the business. Some booty. And that's all there is to that. That's all I got to say about that. And then I'm going to go play some ping pong or some stupid stuff. That said, I'm going to share the link. You guys want to join in. Blister, if you got a sec, I'm curious, man. I'd love to hear some of your brilliant thoughts. Sheila, look forward to seeing you. Paul, it'd be neat to see you, but we got to go to Antarctica soon. We got to figure that out. Outside of that, guys, I love you all. And to all, a good night. Yes, it is. We are, Law of One. Closing out session, 68? It's on the Fringe. Love you guys. We'll do this again next.
meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe, starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.